so much for being here today. First, I want to say something that is not a question, and is that you are not only known in the United States, but also in other countries like Spain, Chile, or Mexico. So I am curious, do you know any Spanish? Do you know how to say anything in Spanish?
I think Kit has a better grasp of Spanish maybe than I do.
I studied Spanish in high school. And,
you studied Spanish in high school, oh?
There's a local Mexican restaurant that I like to go to on the weekends where I need to order my food in Spanish. So that's how I
really
stay
cool.
fresh, but it's very limited.
Well, for example, hello, it's hola. So you can try saying that if you want.
Yeah, I think I definitely know hola, me llamo Krysta. Gracias.
Wow, perfect. Hello, my name is
How do you say
Krista.
fans
Thank you.
in Spanish? How do you say fans in Spanish?
Fans?
Yes.
Fans is fans. I mean, it's the same.
Oh, that makes it easy.
Yeah.
Buenos días a los fans de Nintendo.
Yay! Perfect. Well, Kit Spanish is brilliant. So, well, here's a fun fact. There are some Nintendo characters that are named different in Spain and in the United States. For example, Isabel is named Canela in Spanish, which means cinnamon. It's a dog's name. And other example is this one, Rosalina and Luma. Do you know how it's called in Spain?
No. Isn't Rosalina already a Spanish name, though?
No, its Spanish name is Estela. Estela and Destello. Destello is sparkle in Spanish. And this has two examples of that. It's just a fun fact.
We always notice that when we look at the amiibo boxes as well, because they have all the different languages.
Yeah, they have all the different languages.
Right.
Right. Okay, let's keep going with the questions. No, the second question is, after so many years working at Nintendo, now you have your own podcast, which I must say is very good. Do you want to talk about it for our readers or for people who still doesn't know that you have a podcast?
Yeah, on our channel, we have sort of two main things that we're doing. And one is the Kit and Krysta podcast, and the other is the Kit and Krysta Show. The podcast is us talking very long form about what's happening in gaming. We're sharing our behind the scenes stories and memories about our time at Nintendo, and we're answering all sorts of questions from our fans, and those come out weekly every Thursday. And the Kit and Krysta Show is probably very familiar to people who watch Nintendo Minute. It's those sort of shorter, maybe 10 to 15 minute style videos where we're playing games or doing vlogs or doing challenges. So those are the two main pieces of content that we're putting out on a weekly basis. I should say the Kit and Krysta Show comes out every Friday. So we have a good amount of content coming out every week.
Okay, really interesting. Thank you, Kit. Well, I was so nervous that I didn't introduce myself. My name is Carlos. I am the editor-in-chief of Nintendo.com, which is like the biggest Spanish Nintendo website in the web. And well, let's keep going with the questions. I was wondering, Krysta, now that you are working by yourself, what has been the biggest change in your daily lives?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. When Kit and I decided to start working independently after we left Nintendo, I think we realized that there was a lot of skills that we both needed to learn. At Nintendo, when we were producing Nintendo Minute, we had a production team, we had editors that were helping us create the episodes every week. So now it's just the two of us, so we kind of have to do all of that on our own. So both of us are learning along the way. Kit is learning a lot about how to do the audio for the podcast, and I've learned how to edit. But it's definitely been really fun and a really great, I think, learning opportunity for both of us. And we're trying to improve along the way, so hopefully the viewers are noticing that as well.
Yeah, it must be really hard, but it's really interesting. So you are doing it great, so don't worry about that.
Thank you.
No, let's travel to the past. Do you remember how you two meet each other? Like, what do you think that is the thing that makes you get along so well?
Yeah, Krista was actually the first person I met at Nintendo when I came in for my very first job interview. So
You
she
were
was.
from Capcom, right?
I came from Namco prior
From
to
Namco.
Nintendo.
Okay.
So she was the first person I actually met and interviewed with there. But I think, we have a lot of things in common, but also a number of things that are not in common. So I think that makes for an interesting friendship.
Of course.
Yeah, I think when I first met Kit, he was really shy and he didn't really want to talk to me, even though I wanted to be his friend. And so we really bonded over our mutual love for video games and not just even Nintendo games. I think at the time when we first met, we were playing Fable on Xbox.
Oh.
And I remember not very many people at Nintendo were playing that game, but Kit was the other person that was playing that game. So we really bonded over just our mutual love for all video games, even beyond Nintendo games. But yeah, it was interesting that I had to interview Kit for his job at Nintendo when when I first met him.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, Fable is a great game. I agree. And my next question is about games too. I want to ask, what's your favorite game, both from Nintendo and not from Nintendo?
I guess my favorite game of all time from Nintendo still is Super Mario World. I still play that game a lot, and I just love that game. I think I'll forever love that game, and I think I will enjoy playing it no matter how many times I've played it. My favorite non-Nintendo game, I quite like the Assassin's Creed series.
The Assassin's Creed series.
Yeah, especially the more recent, like the last 3 games have been really great. I really enjoyed Valhalla, and then I love the one set in Greece and Egypt. I was a history major in college, which has nothing to do with marketing or communication.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, so I love the historical aspects of Assassin's Creed. It kind of, I love that kind of storytelling, and to be able to play a fun video game and also kind of learn about history is really interesting.
So you are a big Assassin's Creed fan. That's really great to
for
know.
sure. Yeah.
Okay, and what about you, Kit?
Well, I actually have a newer game that's my favorite, which is Zelda Breath of the Wild. And all my life I had thought, oh, Mario 64 will be my favorite game ever, just for my whole life. But then that came out and really blew me away. And still to this day, there's people are finding out new things about it, and it's just so big and massive. So that's my favorite game ever. I'm glad to say, and I'm very
I feel the same way.
Right.
Yeah.
Very excited for the sequel whenever that comes out.
For the sequel.
Yeah.
Yes, all of us are.
I'm glad to wait. As for a non-Nintendo game, I'll give you an older one and a newer one. The newer one, Elden Ring, is very new, but I think it's climbing up my list. We have both been playing that since it came out at the end of, I guess that was the end of February. It has a lot in common with Breath of the Wild, just as far as being a huge world where you're not given, a to-do list necessarily. You can sort of explore it your own way. So it's been a lot of fun. I think an older one that I really love, and is probably, the phrase comfort food, like gaming comfort food, would be Final Fantasy IV.
Final Fantasy IV. Oh.
Yeah, which is what at the time was Final Fantasy II on the SNES.
Yeah.
Was really my first RPG that I played, and helped me to fall in love with that genre. And is just, a very well-told story with really great characters and really, good RPG mechanics.
Yeah, I am also a big Final Fantasy fan, and I know what you mean, so totally.
Yeah.
Okay, now for my next question. Well, while you were working at Nintendo, you have met many interesting Japanese developers like Koizumi-san, Miyamoto-san, Hisashi-san, etc. There's any fun story that comes to your mind that you want to share with any of them?
Oh, so many funny stories, and we've been so lucky to be able to work with some of these amazing developers. I think my favorite moments with them really is when we were able to take them to dinner and just be in a more casual environment. I was very happy that all of the developers that we were working with, they all loved food as much as we did. Like, I'm all about, like, let's just go and eat and have fun and relax after a long day. And everybody, all the developers were very into that idea as well. I remember taking Mr. Aonuma to get Spanish tapas for the first time, and he loved it in New York City. And yeah, it's just always fun to watch them like eat. Mr. Miyamoto with a big In-N-Out hamburger, or like they always wanted to get steak too, right? We like take them, you know, somewhere that they would like want a big American steak, you know. So it was always fun to take them to dinner and watch them eat and enjoy the food.
American food is very different from Japanese food, so I can totally understand them.
Exactly. They wanted like a big American, you know, hamburger and steak and all that stuff. So I love that. I thought it was great.
Totally.
I have a funny story that involves both Mr. Iwata and Mr. Miyamoto. And it was after an E3. I forget what year it was, but every year after E3, like immediately after the last day, we would have a big meeting where we would sort of get together and talk about how things went and, you know, sort of look ahead. And it was a hard meeting because everybody was exhausted after a long E3. But we were having the meeting and Mr. Iwata was leading it. And we were having sort of an intense conversation about, you know, what we needed to do coming forward to carry on, you know, what we'd accomplished in the E3. And like I said, it was a very, you know, intense conversation. And all of a sudden in the back door, Mr. Miyamoto comes through and he was just sort of looking for some snacks in the back of the room out of nowhere. He wasn't in the meeting and he just sort of appeared out of nowhere. And he really sort of brought a smile to everybody's face and sort of broke this very intense moment in the meeting in the way that only he can.
That's really funny. Yeah, Miyamoto is that way. He is like a genius.
Yeah.
So let's try to move on to the next question. And well, Nintendo video games in general must be a big part of your life. However, what are your hobbies apart from video games?
Yeah. I think for me, I actually picked up a new hobby during the pandemic, which was kind of interesting. I live in San Francisco, right by the water, and I've been watching out my window all these people in sailboats and wondering like, that could be kind of interesting. And also I like Wind Waker, so I was like, maybe I can do this too. So I actually learned how to sail during the early months of the pandemic, and I've been sailing around the San Francisco Bay. I also took a trip to the Bahamas and sailed around the Bahamas last year. So yeah, that's my new favorite thing to do. I definitely kind of hum the Wind Waker tune in my head when I'm out there sailing, but it's been really fun to learn something new last year.
Oh, great. Yeah, sailing must be like really relaxing. I live in Iceland,
Yes.
but I have never been sailing, so I must try it.
Super relaxing. Yeah. Should be sailing in Spain is probably wonderful. I would love to do that one day.
Yeah, you are more than welcome to come to Spain to go for a sail or anything.
That's awesome.
No, what about you, Kit?
I'd probably say cooking, and this is a hobby that both Krysta and I have, and you may have noticed on Nintendo Minute we had a number of videos where there was sort of a cooking element, whether we were making curry with the Pokemon developers or recreating Animal Crossing recipes. I find it to be just a very calming thing to do, and obviously the result is some delicious food, so that's great. I will say I have a few times made a Spanish tortilla.
Spanish tortilla.
I don't know if it's exactly authentic or perfect. Maybe one day I can make it for you and you can tell me.
Yeah, please. Do you prepare the tortilla? This is polemic. Do you prepare the tortilla with onion or without onion?
Onion, with onion.
With onion?
Yes.
Great.
Okay, good.
Good answer.
Good answer.
That's the first test.
Onions and potatoes, right?
Yeah,
right.
Onions and potatoes. And eggs.
Right.
Right.
Ooh, yum, that sounds so good right now.
Well, I have been asked to ask you about if you watch anime. I mean, do you watch any anime, or do you have any favorite anime or something like that? Japanese animation?
Anime is one of those things I wish I had more time to really get into, because some of those series are, hundreds and hundreds of either, episodes, or if you're reading the manga, installments long. So it can feel a little bit daunting to get into. When I worked at Namco, I was working on the Naruto games, so I did watch all of that. So,
oh my God.
and I did enjoy it quite a bit. So that's great. And there's a shorter series that I don't know how I came upon it, but I watched it and I really liked. I think it's maybe 10-ish years old at this point. It's called Mushishi, which is
Mushishi.
I don't think it's I don't know if it's very popular, but it's very sort of whimsical, relaxing sort of supernatural thing, but set in like a very calm and rural Japan.
It's not very popular, but I really love Mushishi, so I know what you mean.
Oh, you've seen it?
Yeah, I have seen it. It's about the doctor with white hair, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you, Krysta?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I feel like there is so much anime that I want to get into. I just need somebody to guide me through what is available because there's just a lot to choose from. But I also quite prefer like the more relaxing anime. So I love, animes like Silver Spoon, which is about like the kids that go to the agricultural school. It's very like slice of life. Because I liked food, I also liked Food Wars. That was a really good one as well.
Oh, Food Wars, Shokugeki no Soma.
Yes, that one. Yeah, the food looked so good. Anime food is my favorite. And I'm glad that some of the classic Studio Ghibli movies are now on HBO because that makes it easy to rewatch some of them. So I'll just sometimes have those on in the background because they're very relaxing and I really like those as well.
I am also a big fan of Studio Ghibli, so I totally know what you mean.
Yeah, Spirited Away is my favorite one, I think.
Yeah. Okay, now to the next question. There are only a few more. At what age did you fall in love with Nintendo? I mean, what's the thing that made you fall in love so hard with their games?
Yeah, I was pretty young. I think I was about 5 or 6. I had just came to America from China. I was born in China. I came to America when I was 5, and it was right around Christmas time. So my parents got me a NES for my Christmas present, my first Christmas present ever. And we were playing Super Mario Brothers, and I think that was the moment that I fell in love with Nintendo. And ever since then, I've just loved Nintendo and video games, and have been playing ever since.
Oh, nice. And what about you, Kit?
Yeah, for me, the first video games I played were actually on an old Atari that my parents had. And I don't know how much Atari you've played, but a lot of those games were not very fun.
I wasn't even born when Atari was released, so...
Yeah. So, I mean, there's like the famous game E.T., which they dumped into the landfill. I played that game and it deserves to be in a landfill. So my earliest memory of games is like, oh, maybe these aren't actually very fun. But then I had a friend in elementary school who got an NES, and I went over to his house, and I could obviously tell right away that this was a big difference and a big step up from Atari. So I was very locked in from that point on.
Really interesting. No, I want to say, well, other question. While you were working at Nintendo, which was the hardest day ever for you? That you remember?
The hardest day? Well, we definitely had some very difficult projects, like the lead up to E3, for example, were some pretty hard days in terms of like, you just haven't slept for a long time and you've been working many hours and you're very busy. But I think one of the hardest days sort of emotionally was the day that Reggie retired.
Yeah.
And Reggie was such a big, has such an impactful presence, and Kit and I both admired and worked with him, and really just looked up to him so much that we knew that Nintendo was going to be a very different place without Reggie. And while I was very happy for Reggie, because he was like, I'm retiring and and he also likes to be on a boat. He's like, I'm going to enjoy my boat and like, have time to drink wine. And I was like, that's so great. I really was happy for him. I was sad for me because I knew that Nintendo was going to be a very different place without him. So
yeah, I have never met Reggie, but I know it's not out yet, but I have read his book. and I
Oh,
yeah, I can understand his perspective. He's like a great leader, so I totally get what you mean.
yeah, exactly. It's a hard person to let go of, in that
Yeah.
moment. Yeah.
Kit?
Yeah, I have a similar answer, which is, when Mr. Iwata passed away, and he was a very integral figure for obviously the whole company, and was our leader, and was a person that I think everybody, whether you work closely with him or not, really admired and could relate to. And it was obviously a huge shock when that happened. So, I think we all went through some sense of grief with that. But there was also kind of the more practical element of like, well, what does this mean for the company when you unexpectedly lose your leader? So that was very challenging.
Totally. Now, on the other side of the coin, what was the thing that made you the most proud about working at Nintendo?
I think definitely Nintendo Minute was something that I was,
Of course.
that we were both really, really proud of. And even to the last day, when we finished it up and wrapped up the show, it was really incredible to look back on, all 429 episodes and all of the cool things we were able to do because of the show. And most importantly, the way we were able to connect with our community, and that was really the main driver for us to start the Kit and Krysta content and channel and stuff like that, because we wanted to continue to be with this amazing community and interact with them. So yeah, I think if anything, this was like a great stepping stone, the legacy of Nintendo Minute into what we're doing now.
Of course, totally. And you, Kit?
That would have been my answer too. So I'll think of another one. We were both at the Game Awards 2017 when Zelda Breath of the Wild won Game of the Year, and also Super Mario Odyssey was nominated as well. And all those developers were there. So it was great to see them get, industry-wide recognition for making something so incredible. And you could see on their face how much it meant to them. I was actually surprised at how much winning that award meant to them. And typically at the Game Awards, Nintendo will win like best family game for like a Mario Party, but this is like, no, we won Game of the Year, and there was a standing ovation from everybody there, and it was just a really good recognition of how important and wonderful that game was.
It was an amazing moment when Aonuma-san appeared and pulled out the Master Sword to reveal the DLC trailer. It was great.
Yeah, he's such a good actor.
Yeah, of course, totally. Now, do you have any word of advice for someone who wants to work at Nintendo someday, or for someone that wants to be just like you?
Yeah, we actually put out an episode of the Kit and Krysta podcast about how both of us sort of broke into the video game industry. And so we talked about this in a lot of detail, but I think the advice that, that I would give people is just to go for it. Obviously, anyone that wants to work in this industry has a passion for video games, has a love for working in gaming. So I think that already goes a long way. Be open and take opportunities and learn as much as you can, which is what I did in my career. And I think, things will come to you. So yeah, just don't be scared. I know it's kind of scary to make that leap to apply for that job at this company you might love and be a little bit intimidated by, but I would say don't be intimidated and just go for it.
Yeah, and it's like this in the US. I'm not sure how much it is in Spain or Europe, but now there's all these remote positions that are open. So I think it might even be, fewer barriers than ever before to try and, get into the industry. Maybe before it was like, oh, well, I want to work at this company, but I don't live there, and it's hard for me to move. Now hopefully, it's easier for everybody to give it a shot. And don't be intimidated by it. Really, have confidence in yourself and your abilities, and it's definitely something anybody can do if they have the passion.
Yeah, that are some great advices. So thank you. Now, for my almost last question, Nintendo has lots of good franchises, and some of them are not really getting games right now, like Nintendo's Golden Sun or the Ice Climbers. If you had to pick one franchise and make a game about that franchise, which one would you like to see returning in the future?
My pick is Tomodachi Life.
Tomodachi Life, oh.
I wish that Nintendo would do more with Mii's. I think, I talked about this in a couple of podcast episodes already as well. The Mii's are so great. And I know they were kind of a legacy of the Wii U era, but it's such a Nintendo thing, And Tomodachi Life was such a fun way to, interact with Mii's and interact with your friends. It was such a funny game. So yeah, I wish they would make that for Switch.
You may not believe me, but a lot of people love Tomodachi Life in Spain.
Really?
A lot of people.
It's so fun. Yeah.
It's a fun game.
People are very creative with their game as well, and how they, interact with their friends, and even like celebrity needs that they make. So I really love that part about it.
What about you, Kit?
One I would like to see more games from is Pilot Wings.
Pilot Wings,
which was originally an SNES game, and there was the 3DS Pilot Wings Resort, I think it was called. But I think the act of flying is something that maybe you don't get as much in games as we should, because it's so freeing and you can explore these worlds. And I think those games do a good job of, you're in a plane, you're in a jetpack, you're in a parachute, really exploring all the different ways that you can do it. So, only 2 games in, 30 years. Maybe we can do a third one.
Yeah, Pilot Wings is very good and very underrated. So
right.
Yeah, totally.
I would pick Mother. I want Mother 3 in English, please.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
You and like millions of other people.
Yeah, I know. Well, now my last question is something very easy, and is, do you have any final message that you would like to say to the people who watch you overseas and love your content on Spanish-spoken countries?
Gracias for watching.
Right.
We're so excited that we are making our own content now. We have so much freedom to just like branch out beyond Nintendo games, although we still of course love Nintendo and Nintendo games. I hope that everyone keeps watching and listening to both the Kit and Krysta podcast and the Kit and Krysta Show. We're so excited for to continue this journey. I think we're off to a really awesome start, and we couldn't have asked for more. So thank you so much for everyone that's been sticking with us.
Yeah, and I would just add, I think this is the best output that we've had in our 8 years of making videos. It is something new. It's a fresh start for us, but it is building upon what we've done in the years before. So it feels very fresh and different and exciting for us, and hopefully that comes through to the viewers and listeners as well.
Thank you so much, Kit and Krysta. People love you. I love you too, and I will keep supporting you and your podcast. Thank you for being here, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Have a nice day.
You too. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.